Welcome! It's a great day to be a miner. In today's video, summer. It's coming fast, and the heat is coming with it. So today we have an awesome new item to review. We're gonna unbox this thing, we're gonna get it up, and we're gonna get it installed, and we're gonna do some testing, and then we're gonna tell you, is this massive item worth the price? Should you buy this? Let's stop gabbing, and let's tear into it. Spin that intro. Wow, it's so big. All right, what are we doing today? Today we are going to try a new cooling solution for the mining cave slash office slash studio. And we ordered a big boy fan. This is the AirKing 20-inch 3-speed whole house window fan, and we are going to put it into our main window in the room, and it should be able to exhaust or pull in tons of air. And currently what I have, let's take a look at what I currently have. Here is my setup currently. Not exactly a great setup. I've got a cheapo Walmart fan in here, and I've got a little window AC unit to pull in air. This constantly exhausts, this pulls in cold air. And to go with those, what I did was cut a hole in my door. Let's take a look at it. So here is the door to my office, and I cut a hole in it. I cut a hole and I put this vent, and what that does is the fan in the window is exhausting. It's pulling the cool air from the rest of the house through this vent, pulls it clear across the room, pulls all the hot air out the window so that I'm providing plenty of ambient. And then I only turn on the window AC in the morning when everything is too toasty for me to handle working in here. And so this pulls like a vacuum. And so what we're gonna do is replace this whole window setup. We're gonna get rid of this little fan, and we're gonna put that giant AirKing in there, and then we're gonna get rid of the air conditioner altogether and only use ambient air pulling from the house across. And then in the winter, we'll reverse the fan. It'll pull the cool winter air through the room, and then it will exhaust the hot air with it into the house. So the cool air is coming in, it's pushing the warm air out into the house and helping to heat the house. Now the problem with this is this opening is perfect width, but the height is supposed to be 27 inches. This height is 24 inches. We may have to do some modifications to get this guy in, but hopefully we can get it in, and hopefully it drops our temperatures. Let's go take a look at our current temperature. Let's look at our current temperature. It is 87 in here right now, which doesn't sound that hot, but I work in here most of my day while I'm actually doing my real job. So that's pretty toasty warm, and as you can see, it was up at 97 at some point. By the way, this is the Govee Bluetooth thermometer. This thing is so nice, and it's actually pretty cheap. I can put a link down in the description. My man Teaspoon actually did a video on this once. I'll link that too. So we're gonna open this thing and see how big it really is, and if it's actually gonna fit in the window, or if I'm gonna have to do some modifications. This thing has some amazing CFM. I'll go ahead and list that up on the screen. It pulls a whole lot of air. And what else am I going to do? I'm going to measure the current decibel level of my fan air conditioner setup in a couple different places, and then I'm going to put this in and I'm going to compare how loud this fan is compared to my current setup. Hopefully not too much louder, or we're going to have another issue there. So let's go. All right, here she is. She's unboxed. She is a big girl fan. This thing is a beast. I'm just trying to hold it up without it falling. Let's see here. If I could get a hook on it. So that's about 26 inch wide, probably 26 inch square. The thing is quite thick. There's how thick it is. Across. And then of course on our controls, We have 3 for exhaust and 3 for intake. 3 speeds for exhaust, 3 speeds for intake. Before we mount this, we're gonna go actually noise test our current setup, and then we'll work on trying to get this big girl installed. All right, to test our noise levels, I am using an app called Decibel X, and this is not exactly the most scientific method to actually monitor, but this should give me a pretty good baseline. This has pretty good reviews. I've used it in the past, and if nothing else, if I use the same app and the same exact setup, at least it'll give me a comparative baseline, even if the actual decibels are not right on par with a real meter. So this is what we're using, and we're gonna go over by the air conditioner and fan unit, and then we're also gonna go over by the desk where I work most of the time. I'm gonna record both, and then once I put in the new setup, then I will compare and see how much difference. All right, our fan is installed, and already we are down to 84.5 degrees once I finally got this beast installed. It definitely took some effort. The height of this window, let's jump over there. Hopefully this isn't too hard to see with all that light coming in, but the size of the window is actually a little shorter than the fan, so that made me have to do some mods. And I definitely cut this wood a little long, and I probably should have corrected that, but I just went ahead and mounted it. Then once I got it mounted and I had it spooled up and I had it on intake only, it was super loud. There was so much negative pressure built up in this room that sucking the air from the house through that little vent was not enough, and it was actually the fan working against itself. So the first thing I did was I put weather stripping all the way around, all the way up and all the way up here and all the way down there. That closed off any of the cracks or any of the seals that were there. And so now I have a full sealed window. So then the next thing I did was take the window AC out of this window, and then I still had too much negative pressure. So I cracked this window to equalize the pressure a little bit. Currently I'm running intake, so it's bringing the 70-degree air through this room, and it's pushing it all the way through. And then let's go look at our door. And so then it's pushing it all the way across the room, a straight shot, and coming through this vent. Whenever I open this door, there's a bunch of suction on it, and it actually changes the volume of the fan. Because all the air that's coming in through the window is now pushing through there and into the house. When I have it on exhaust pushing out the window, there's a ton of cold air from the house air conditioner coming through here. So there's a ton of air from the house AC coming through this vent, pulling straight across the room, and then going out that window. This is gonna work so much better than my previous setup. This will also save me electricity, which allows me to have more mining in this room, and it will actually make it so that it's not unbearable. So the final objective, I'm gonna do sound testing again, and I'm gonna do sound testing right here by the fan, and then I'm gonna do it at the desk, and I'm gonna try some different configurations, and I'm gonna compare the amount of noise that I am making now compared to what I was making, and see if it's going to be, at this level is operable. I just had a conference call and I didn't have anyone complain about it, so this volume level is acceptable. Any louder than this and I'm really pushing it, and this is on low and I had to make the extra hole. Let's jump over into the PC and look at some of the specs on this thing. All right, so here we are. We're over at our main battle station, and this is the place where I spend most of my day. This is where I work from home. This is where I do a lot of my mining, my content production. And this PC has an RTX 3080 FE and a 3060 Ti FE over here, and this is constantly mining as well. It gets about 155 mega hash. So with this PC, with the mining rig, with the other PC mining in here, it does get hot, and that's the whole purpose of this fan. So now that we're over here, we need to ensure that the temperature is good and that the sound is acceptable so that I can still communicate and do my real job. So let's go look at some of these nerdy numbers. Okay, so here's the nerdy numbers. Let's start with the actual previous numbers. My previous setup was the fan and the air conditioner in the window, and what I did was I measured the sound at the window and at the desk for the different settings to try to get the best median for the sound plus cooling. So what I did was I had the fan on high and the air conditioner on high, and that was 51 decibels at the window and 37.5 at my desk. Then a lot of times I would just run the fan on medium and the air conditioner on high, and that would produce 48.2 at the window and 35.8 here at my desk. So then next I went and dropped down to the AirKing once it was installed, and I put this thing in and I tried some different settings. So the very first, you can see in red here, it says with the window closed and on intake. It had a 43.2 at the window, 34 decibels of noise at my desk, but there was no airflow because it was making this giant negative pressure box. And so what I had to do after that was, with it on low and on intake, I adjusted the amount of the side-by-side window, the next window beside it, how much I would crack it 4.5 inches, so that basically while the fan is exhausting out, the window right beside it is actually sucking cool air in, and it's kind of making a big loop in the room, which was pretty nice. And you can see that the actual sound level will increase with the speed of the fan, obviously. Higher CFM, the blades are whirling. This thing is made for a whole house, so it's not going to be quiet, but yet we went for optimal amount of airflow and sound so that I could still function and perform my job duties. When all was said and done, we tried it on both intake and exhaust. When it's on intake, it's bringing the air in through the fan and through pulling some through the window, and then it's actually pushing out through the vent in the door into the house. When I do exhaust, it will suck the cool air from the house through the door vent and the little crack under the door, and it will pull it out the window. And as it's pulling out the window, the side-by-side cracked window is actually pulling some in to make a nice big loop. All in all, when all was said and done, I ended up settling for using it on low, intake, and I leave at 6-inch crack on the window, and that produces 38.7 decibels at my desk, which is very reasonable, and this allows me to still work perfectly without having too much interruption, and it is bringing a decent amount of air in through the room. So there, yeah, you can see that this thing gets pretty loud, especially on high and in intake. Even with the window cracked at a large amount, it's still bringing in so much pressure, and that's creating pretty much an unusable environment. If I wasn't working in here, putting this thing on high and just letting it go, man, this thing is a beast. Well, there you have it. There's the nerdy numbers. Let's go ahead and hop over into the outro. Well, there you have it. The AirKing shows exactly why it is the king. This thing moves so much air. This is the premium solution. And once these winter months start fading away and we start getting heated up, this thing's going to do its job quite well. The thing is gorgeous. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe for future content. Thanks for coming along and enjoy the ride.